morning, everybody. Ol Seldom here. I want to start this video out by saying that thank you, and I appreciate your expressed concern by many of you that are my subscribers and just plain viewers. Yesterday, after that video, yeah, and it got me thinking that I think I need to explain and give you a rundown of who Seldom Fails is. Well, yep, I'm 76 years old. I set my first muskrat trap when I was 8 years old. And I'd gone on my dad's friend's rat line on the river one time, and he said, Mike, he says, you want to trap rats in the ditches? Go, yep. And he says, here's a stretcher, and you can cut out a guide, use it as a guide. And he says, I'll skin the first rat, and it's all yours after that. That's how I started trapping. It was a 2-mile walk every day from my house to the creek in the ditch where I had traps set, and I was 8 years old, and the season in those days didn't start till Thanksgiving Day. So I learned real quick how to use footholds under ice. So anyway, yep, I've trapped every year since I was 8 years old. I was my career was mostly all with Dow Chemical. I became a journeyman welder, qualified in all the welding processes on all the metals that was used in Dow Chemical. Along with that, I also became a journeyman pipe fabricator. Now, don't confuse that with a pipe fitter, because a fabricator, we were a higher pay level because we had to do more print work, more calculations, more intricate work than the pipe fitters could do out in the field. So, during that time, that was the first half of my career as working as with those two journeyman cards in Dow. I worked in shop work, I worked in construction, I didn't like maintenance. In 1970, I started trapping fox, and I pretty much dedicated myself to fox because that's how I operate. I'm kind of one of these guys, yes, I trap combinations, but I dedicate to a particular species. And I trap fox from 1970 to 1987 when my first wife developed breast cancer. My first wife was my high school sweetheart, by the way. We had 2 sons. And I lost her to breast cancer in 1990. And trapping, when I could get out, and I could get out of the house because I took care of her. Dow was really, really good, and I was salary at that time, and I'll explain that. So I could come home and change her chemotherapy and stuff like that. Anyway, trapping was my balm. And when you got on your knees to make a fox set, you know what I'm talking about. I was praying to God to save my wife. Yeah, it didn't happen. But trapping and being out in the outdoors was and is my church today. So, going back in 1985, I was recognized for my abilities in Dow as a welder and as a pipe fabricator. To the degree it explains where the nickname Seldom come from. When I was a young welder, I was working on a crew on a project, and within the crew you had a welder and maybe 2-3 fitters working together, and you had maybe 5-6 groups. And this was an X-ray job. Well, my fitters loved me. They were older guys. They were older guys, and didn't want to work overly hard. And of course, if you failed an X-ray, Jesus, then the pipe fitters had to go and carry the piece back and cut it apart. And of course, I had to re-weld it, and they had to go and put it back. And they were happier than hang. The other crews were having all kinds of trouble, but not them. I passed all my X-rays, and I was fast. I was something about my ability when it came to welding and fabricating. It was just like it was a natural thing for me to be. Well, they were happy, so that's how that nickname started. It seldom fails, and that stuck with me my entire career and to this day. As you know, I use it, and it always, my wife, my second wife, tomorrow's our 32nd anniversary. She could never understand. We'd be in grocery shopping and you'd hear somebody say, "Hey, Seldom." So anyway, in 1985, I was recognized for my abilities at Dow, and I interviewed for a welding engineer's job. And I had to compete against degreed welding engineers for that position. I beat them out. I was the last non-degreed welding engineer Dow Chemical ever hired, and of course I went salary then. And I finished my career, the last half of it, doing that very same job. So I retired. When I retired, I had a consulting business for couple, 3 years, troubleshooting, welding, fabrication, quality assurance, quality control. I traveled the four corners of the country, and finally it started interfering with my trapping and hunting. I was getting too much business, and I quit that. Well, when I quit it, I had been trapping mink, all right? I had dedicated myself to mink. And I'm from Midland County, born and raised in the country of Midland, Michigan. And this was also the home of Ken Smythe. You understand, the bottom edge man. And I never met him, he never trapped in this county. He trapped the trout water starting about 50 miles north, I'm told. So, by gosh, I see where Michigan State University was doing a big toxicology project right here on the Tittabawassee River shed, which included the Pine River, Chippewa River, and numerous creeks. So I interviewed for that job. And I got hired partly because of my trapping experience and background that I had to prove, of course, show them evidence, and the fact that my job in Dow had a lot to do with documentation. Well, this was a serious, and I was a qualified witness, expert witness in Dow for welding and fabrication, so I could, I was recognized I could go to court. Well, they wanted somebody too that knew something about going to court. Anyway, so I worked that project for 3 years, and during that I went more along with all of the mink trapping, which I used the bottom edge set because the college advisory committee really told me how I was supposed to trap. And every day that I trapped, I had scientists and grad students from all over the world with me. Every day there was people in the boat with me that would fly in for a week and see what we were doing, and they would come with me. Yeah. During that time, we also studied other animals, or the college did, the university, and I designed and built live traps for great blue heron, for belted kingfisher, and believe it or not, for bluebirds. And those are all in scientific papers, and I know that the blue heron traps were used down on the Gulf Coast here just a few years ago after an oil spill. So But anyway, so I think we've caught up. I got to tell you, I never had a job as an adult that I didn't absolutely love. I enjoyed going to work. There was no difference between trapping and welding and fabrication. They were the scales were equal. I loved it all, and it was. I worked with so many people that hated their job, and I felt sorry for them because I didn't. I love my work. So anyway, I guess that's pretty well sums it up. Well, then I switched over after the mink. After the surgeon says, Mike, you keep climbing in and out of those ditches and cricks. He says, I'm going to replace your other knee. And he says, I'll probably replace a hip. So that, I don't like that. So I said, enough of the mink trapping. I wasn't going to do anymore. And I just plain switched to coyotes. And I love coyote trapping and I love mink trapping. I'm serious about that. Fantastic. That once you understood that there was inherent behaviors of both species, if you capitalized on that, that's the first thing, inherent behavior aspects, and you will be a success. And so anyway, I never liked to be too far from home. I didn't have a great big line and travel all over the friggin' country. I hurt myself because I trapped the same properties in the general area for ever since about 2000. Yeah, 2005, in fact. And I knocked them back big time. To the point where now we have the night shooters with the infrareds, and that's how you knock off coyotes. So I'm really low population in coyotes, and doggone it, I said, and there's no value. I said, I'm stopping trapping coyotes. So what am I going to do this winter? You know what happens to old men when they sit in a friggin' chair all winter long, so I decided I'd go back to beaver trapping because I hadn't trapped beaver since 2012. And I figured I'd catch a few beaver, in December and January, and then I would skin throughout the winter months and get me out here in this fur shed. And that's what I'm doing. I'm catching far more beaver than I thought I would, and I'm happy. I'm happy doing that, and I love putting them up. And right now, I skinned that beaver from yesterday. You saw in yesterday's video, and he's cooling down now, and I'll bring him in and I'll flesh him out and board him. So I think that's about how things roll here with me. I really don't have any intentions of going back to coyote trapping, except I think next fall my sons and my grandchildren hate trapping. So who am I going to pass my knowledge to and experience? It's bad enough with welding and fabrication. There's nobody to give it to. Nobody wants to work anymore. So I got starting to put the word out that next fall I'll be available to go out, and if somebody that has a problem, can't catch coyote, can't catch mink, I'm not going to teach them how to do it. I'm going to offer kind of an on-site troubleshooting. And I'll come out for a nominal fee and help them get squared away. So with both of them, with both the mink and the coyote. So that's what I'm kind of thinking about doing. And then I'm going to get back into my beaver trapping and snaring. I wished I had ice. I'd much rather snare than use the 330s. I had a bad accident with the 330 with the Beasley back in 2011. I was on glare ice. The ice you can see through, looks like a window pane, and I had spudded my hole to get my swinging Susie out and got water, water on a sheet of glass, you know what happens. So I picked the Swingin' Susie up, and when I picked it up, just that motion, my feet went out from underneath me, and the trap went up in the air. And when I hit the ice, I threw my arm up, and it took me right across this wrist and across my bicep. Now my wrist has got a steel rod in it, so it don't bend, and luckily I probably kept that wrist from getting broke again. But I maneuvered around on the ice there with the help of setters, a couple of my legs, and a clump of red willows, and I got out of it. But that was going to hit me in the face, and I'll never forget that. I sold those traps, and said I'm dedicating myself to snares. So. Yeah, that was a bad one. Now this wrist, you've heard me mention, this wrist, the same two bones are broken. Surgeon says I'm not going to do anything with it. I'm not going to put a bar in it, or that's called bone fusion. And so that's how much movement I have in the wrist, and it hurts like hell. So, and of course there's arthritis has settled into both of them. So yeah, you know, the comments yesterday about being on that ice, yeah, you know, what I get thinking about it. What do they say? The definition of insanity, when you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results? Well, trappers are a little, you know, sometimes off the beam, and I'm no different, except I try to use what lessons life has taught me and experience, and I'm careful as hell, and that's why I really tiptoe. And there is no more jump and run and crash and bang when I was a young man. No, it's tiptoe through the tulips, and because I'm sure not my balance. I don't know what the hang happened to that. You know, I have no idea. Because I was used to welding the high lines, the pipe racks, and down in the trench. No, heck, nothing. But boy, today, yeah, I got to be a lot more careful. So that's why I said I appreciate your concern. I'm concerned. My wife is concerned. And so yes, and you know, happy wife, happy life. Well, you got to keep that going. So, but anyway, yes, I thought it was time to take the opportunity to explain who Mike Seldom Fails is to all of the viewers and my subscribers out there, and it was a good day to do that. So I don't think there's anything else I can think of. I've given you pretty much a rundown of what 68 years of trapping, and then my years as a journeyman welder, a journeyman pipe fabricator, and then as a non-degreed welding engineer. So anyway, folks, I don't know. I'm going to show you some pictures of this swamp that I really want to get to. It's with my spikes, my beaver spikes, which I absolutely love. But boy, I got to have some ice. It's either me falling through. Now this is shallow, but or the beaver coming out on the ice. We don't need that either. So, and we're supposed to get a hang of a snowstorm tomorrow, and the temperatures I think we're past the good freezing time of the winter. You know, February is usually our coldest month here in central Michigan, and so I'm afraid that beaver colony is going to have to stay intact and wait for me. So I'm not going to open water trap. I don't like it at all. I don't anticipate doing that. If I do, you all will know about it. Have a great winter. I'm glad you folks are watching my video. I hope you enjoy it. Later.